My parents disowned me because I was not a boy. A decade later, at my cousin's wedding, they wanted me to fund IT. My response left everyone in tears. The wedding invitation sat on my desk like a ticking bomb, its gold-embossed letters mocking me with every glance. I hadn't stepped foot in my hometown for 10 years, and now my cousin wanted me to be her maid of honor. The irony wasn't lost on me. The forgotten daughter, suddenly important enough to stand beside the bride. I'm June, and the last time I saw my parents, they made it crystal clear that a daughter wasn't what they had planned for their legacy. If only you were born a boy, my mother would say, shaking her head while serving dinner to my father first. Always first. My phone buzzed. Chelsea's name flashed across the screen. June. Did you get the invitation? Her excitement crackled through the speaker. Yeah, just looking at it now. I traced the edges of the envelope with my finger. Are you sure about this? Your parents might not stop right there, she cut in. It's my wedding, and you're the only person I want standing next to me. Besides, Francisco adores you. He says you're the kind of woman who makes things happen. I smiled despite myself. My tech company had just closed its biggest deal yet, and the industry magazines were starting to take notice. That's sweet of him. But, Chelsea, you know how things are with they ask about you, you know, she said softly. Your parents. They see your name in the business sections. Mom says Aunt Eleanor keeps every article. My throat tightened, funny way of showing it. 10 years of silence, and they're collecting articles like proud parents. There's something else. Chelsea hesitated. They want to talk to you at the wedding. Your mom specifically asked if you'd be there. The familiar anger bubbled up, but I pushed it down. Did she say what about? No. But June, things change. People change. I glanced at my laptop screen where a draft of our company's latest financial report waited for my review. The numbers were good, better than good. We'd grown exponentially in the past 2 years. Listen, Chelsea, I need to think about this. The wedding's in 3 weeks. Please say yes. My office door opened, and Rhett walked in, carrying 2 coffee cups. He raised an eyebrow at my expression. I'll call you back, I told Chelsea, hanging up. Wedding drama? Rhett placed a cup on my desk. You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse. My parents want to talk. He sat down, leaning forward. The same parents who told you that investing in your education was a waste because you just end up someone's wife? The very same. I took a sip of coffee. Chelsea says they've changed. People don't change that much, June. They just get better at hiding who they are. He paused. Unless they need something. A new message popped up on my phone from Lisa, my childhood friend. Just heard you might come back for the wedding. Your mom was at the grocery store telling everyone how proud she is of her successful daughter. Something's up. I showed Rhett the message. He let out a low whistle. Suddenly proud, right when your company's making headlines? My thoughts exactly. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline I'd grown to love. You know what the worst part is? A tiny piece of me still wants their approval. Pathetic, right? Human, Rhett corrected. But don't let it cloud your judgment. You built all this, he gestured around the office, without them. While they were busy wishing for a son, you were becoming someone their imaginary heir could never match. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Chelsea. There's something else you should know, it's important. Can we talk? I showed Rhett the message. Go to the wedding, he said firmly. Whatever they want, whatever game they're playing, face it head on. You're not that scared teenager anymore. I picked up the invitation again, running my fingers over my name. June Spencer, not June Simmons. I changed my last name the day I left home, choosing my grandmother's maiden name, the only person in my family who had believed in me. You're right, I told Rhett. I'll go, but not for them. I pulled out my phone to text Chelsea. I'm in. But first, tell me everything. Half a response came immediately. Not over text? Can I come by your office tomorrow? There's a lot you need to know before you face them. I looked at Rhett, who was watching me with concern. Whatever they're planning, I said, they're about to learn that the daughter they didn't want grew up to be exactly who she needed to be. That's my girl. Rhett grinned. Now shall we review that financial report? Something tells me you're going to want those numbers fresh in your mind. I nodded, already wondering what Chelsea needed to tell me, and why my parents had suddenly decided their daughter was worth acknowledging. Whatever it was, I had a feeling this wedding was going to be about much more than just saying I do. Chelsea's revelation hit me like a bucket of ice water. They're losing everything, June. The family business, the house, all of it. Dad says Uncle Norman made some bad investments, and now they're desperate. We sat in my office, the city lights twinkling behind us as evening settled in. Chelsea clutched her coffee cup, her engagement ring catching the light. So that's why they suddenly remember they have a daughter, I said, the pieces falling into place. How much? They need at least $500,000 to stay afloat. Chelsea wouldn't meet my eyes. Aunt Eleanor's been telling everyone how successful you are, how proud they are of their brilliant daughter. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 10 years of silence, and now they're proud? Because they need money? I know it's awful. Chelsea reached across the desk to squeeze my hand. I just thought you should know before the wedding. They're planning to approach you there. At your wedding? They'd really do that. They think you won't make a scene, public image and all that. She rolled her eyes. You know how they are. My phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. Just drove past your old house. For sale signs up. You okay? Does everyone know except me? I showed Chelsea the message. Small town, remember. But listen, there's more. Francisco and I overheard them at the rehearsal dinner last night. They're telling people you offered to help, that you're coming home to save the family business. The anger I'd suppressed for years threatened to bubble over. They're already spending my money. June? Chelsea hesitated. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, Rhett burst into the office. You need to see this. He turned his tablet toward us, showing a local news website. There was my father standing in front of his failing business, quoted in an article about family enterprises facing challenges. We're fortunate that our daughter has agreed to step in, I read aloud. Family always comes together in times of need. My hand shook. They're painting themselves as proud parents whose successful daughter is rushing home to help. They're trying to back me into a corner. That's not all. Rhett scrolled down. They're hosting a welcome home dinner for you the night before the wedding. Already announced it in the society pages. Chelsea looked mortified. June, I'm so sorry. If I'd known they'd go this far, it's not your fault. I stood up, pacing the office. They're still playing the same games, just with higher stakes. What's your plan? Rhett asked, knowing that look in my eye. I stopped pacing. I'm going to that dinner and to the wedding, but not as the dutiful daughter they're expecting. June, Chelsea warned, whatever you're thinking. Don't worry, I assured her. I won't ruin your wedding, but I'm done letting them control the narrative. They want to use me for money? Fine. Let's see how they handle it when I use their precious public image against them. My phone rang. My mother's number. After 10 years, she was finally calling. Put it on speaker, Rhett suggested. I answered. Hello, Mother, June darling. Her voice was syrupy sweet. We're so excited about the dinner. Everyone's talking about it. Your father and I have missed you terribly. Have you? I kept my voice neutral. That's funny because I don't remember hearing from you for the past decade. A pause. The past is the past, dear. We're just so proud of what you've accomplished. A mother always knows her child's potential. I caught Rhett's eye. He was shaking his head in disbelief. Does she? I asked. I seem to remember you having very different opinions about my potential. June. Her voice hardened slightly. That's all water under the bridge. We have so much to discuss when you're home, such exciting opportunities for the family. I'm sure we do. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. I'm looking forward to it. After hanging up, I turned to Chelsea and Rhett. They want to play happy families? Perfect. I'll give them exactly what they want right up until I don't. June. Chelsea looked worried. What are you planning? Something that'll make them wish they'd never remembered they had a daughter. I picked up the wedding invitation. But first, I need to make a few calls. If they want to talk about money, let's talk about money. Rhett grinned. Need any help? Actually, yes. I turned to Chelsea. I'm still your maid of honor, and I promise your wedding won't be collateral damage. But afterward, they're going to learn that the daughter they dismissed isn't just successful. She's learned how to play their game better than they ever could. As Chelsea left, Rhett stayed behind. You sure about this? They taught me one valuable lesson, I said, pulling up my company's financial records. Image is everything. It's time they learned how that lesson can backfire. The welcome home dinner was exactly as I expected, a carefully orchestrated show of family unity. My mother had arranged everything perfectly, from the fresh flowers to the strategic seating of influential guests. I wore my most expensive suit, playing my part. June, darling. My mother air kissed my cheeks as I arrived. You look wonderful. Success clearly agrees with you, Mother, I smiled, matching her artificial warmth. You've outdone yourself with the arrangements. Well, we had to celebrate properly. She lowered her voice. Everyone who matters is here. I scanned the room. Local business owners, family friends, even a reporter from the local paper, all carefully selected witnesses to the prodigal daughter's return. My father approached, champagne in hand. There's my girl. I was just telling Richard about your company's impressive growth. Richard, a bank manager I remembered from childhood, nodded enthusiastically. Remarkable achievements, June. Your father's been sharing the numbers, has he? I raised an eyebrow. Interesting, considering I haven't shared those numbers with him. An awkward silence fell. My father laughed too loudly. Always the joker, this one. Lisa appeared at my side, squeezing my arm in silent support. June, let me grab you a drink. At the bar, she whispered, "They've been talking you up all evening. Your mom's practically glowing with maternal pride." 10 years too late, I muttered, accepting a glass of wine. "June," my father's voice behind me. "Could we have a moment in private?" I followed him to his study, the same room where he'd once told me that investing in my business education was pointless because no one takes women, executives, seriously. He closed the door. "You've done well for yourself. No thanks to you. Now, June," he straightened his tie, "let's not dwell on the past. We're family. Family supports each other. Does it?" I sat in his leather chair, his chair, and watched him flinch. "Like you supported me? We may have made mistakes," he paced the room. "But we're proud of you now. And with your help, we could rebuild everything, make it a true family enterprise." "How much do you need?" He named the figure, larger than what Chelsea had mentioned. "That's a significant investment," I said carefully. "Investment?" He laughed. "June, we're your parents. This is about family, not business." "Everything's business with you, father. You taught me that." A knock at the door. My mother entered, closing it behind her. "Is everything settled? Our daughter seems to think this is a business transaction," my father said tightly. "Isn't it?" I stood up. "You haven't spoken to me in 10 years. Now you're hosting dinners, bragging about my success, telling people I'm coming home to save the family business, all without asking me first. We're your parents." My mother stepped forward. "We have a right." "To what? My money? The success you said I'd never achieve?" I moved toward the door. "You know what's funny? If you'd just called, apologized, shown any genuine remorse, I might have helped. But this?" I gestured toward the party outside. "This manipulation. June." My father's voice hardened. "Think carefully about your next move. Your reputation." "My reputation?" I laughed. "I built that without you, just like I built everything else you're trying to take credit for." "People are watching," my mother hissed. They expect what you told them to expect." "That's your problem, not mine." I opened the door but turned back one last time. "I'll see you at Chelsea's wedding. I'm sure you'll be proud to have your successful daughter give a speech." Their faces paled simultaneously. Back at the party, Lisa intercepted me. "You okay?" "Perfect." I smiled at the curious onlookers. "Just discussing some exciting family business opportunities." The reporter perked up. "Any comments about the rumored family enterprise expansion?" "Oh yes," I said clearly. "I'll be making a very special announcement at the wedding. Something that'll make my parents incredibly proud." My mother, who had followed me out, froze mid-step. "Really?" the reporter scribbled frantically. "Care to give us a hint?" "Let's just say," I raised my voice slightly, "it's about family legacy, about making sure the right people benefit from success." My father's hand gripped his champagne glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. Lisa whispered, "What are you planning?" "Justice," I murmured back, served cold with a side of karma. As I left the party, I heard my mother making excuses about my jet lag, but I didn't care. Let them spend the next few days wondering what I'd do. Let them taste the anxiety they'd fed me for years. The wedding was in 2 days, and I had preparations to make. They wanted their successful daughter to make a statement. I'd give them one they'd never forget. "You're doing what?" Rhett's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I paced my hotel room. "June, that's either brilliant or insane." "Maybe both," I said, reviewing the documents on my laptop. "The paperwork's ready. I just need to make it public at the right moment." Lisa burst into my room waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" She pulled up a local news article. "Local success story returns. Family reconciliation leads to business merger." "They're still pushing the narrative," I muttered, "even after last night. Your mom's been calling everyone." Lisa sat on the bed. "Damage control. Saying you were tired from travel, that everything's proceeding as planned." My phone buzzed. "Chelsea calling. June, are you sure about tomorrow?" "Don't worry about your wedding," I assured her. "The reception speech is when everything happens. Your ceremony will be perfect." It's not that she hesitated. "Your mom just called Francisco's parents. She's telling everyone you're making a major investment announcement during your speech." Rhett, still on speaker, laughed. "They really don't know when to quit, do they?" A knock at my door. Lisa opened it to find Francisco standing there looking concerned. "June?" He stepped in. "We need to talk. Your father cornered my dad at the rehearsal dinner. He's basically promised them a business partnership through you." "Of course he has." I closed my laptop. "They're trying to force my hand by creating expectations. It's more than that." Francisco sat down. "They're leveraging these promises for immediate loans, using your supposed involvement as collateral." "What?" I stood up sharply. "That's fraud." "Only if you don't follow through," Lisa pointed out. "They're betting you won't humiliate them publicly. Watch me." I pulled out my phone, dialing my lawyer. Sarah, move forward with everything we discussed, yes, tomorrow. And contact the SEC about those unauthorized promises. After hanging up, I turned to Francisco. I need a favor. Can you make sure my speech is moved to right after dinner before anyone leaves? He nodded. Already done. Chelsea suggested it. Perfect. I opened my laptop again. Now about that charity foundation, the one you're announcing tomorrow. Lisa appeared at my screen. How much are you actually donating? Everything they asked for plus interest. I showed her the figures. But instead of bailing them out, it's going to help girls who've been told they're not enough. Rhett whistled through the phone. That's going to leave a mark, June. Francisco looked worried. They're going to lose everything. They already lost everything that mattered, I replied. They just don't know it yet. Another knock. This time, it was my mother. Lisa quickly closed my laptop as she entered. June, darling, we need to discuss tomorrow's announcement. She looked pointedly at my friends. Privately. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of them. She pressed her lips together. Fine. Your father's arranged everything. When you announce the investment, who said I'm announcing an investment? She faltered. But you must. We've already told everyone. That's your problem, Mother, making promises about money that isn't yours. We're your parents. Really? I stood up. Where were you when I needed parents? When I was building my company from nothing? When I changed my name because I couldn't bear to carry yours? She flinched. We made mistakes. No, I cut her off. Mistakes are forgetting birthdays or missing school events. What you did was systematic emotional abuse. And now you want to profit from the success I achieved despite you? You ungrateful. She caught herself, aware of our audience. Think about what you're doing. Your father's reputation will be exactly what he deserves. I opened the door. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a speech to finish. After she left, Francisco let out a low whistle. That was intense. Tomorrow will be worse, Lisa warned. Tomorrow will be justice, I corrected, reopening my laptop. Rhett, is everything set on your end? Press release ready to go the moment you finish your speech, he confirmed. Local and national media already interested. Good. I pulled up my speech document. Because tomorrow, my parents are going to learn that the daughter they never wanted grew up to be exactly who she needed to be. Someone who won't let them hurt anyone else the way they hurt me. Lisa hugged me. Want us to stay while you practice? No. I smiled. I've got this. 10 years of practice, remember? As they left, I looked at the speech one last time. Tomorrow, at my cousin's wedding reception, I would finally say everything I'd held back for a decade. And I would do it in a way that would make it impossible for my parents to twist the narrative. They wanted their successful daughter to make a statement. They were about to get exactly what they asked for. Chelsea's wedding was beautiful. As maid of honor, I stood beside her watching her marry Francisco with genuine joy. My parents sat in the front row, practically glowing with anticipation of my upcoming announcement. The local newspaper photographer kept his lens trained on our family exactly as they'd planned. At the reception, my mother worked the room like a politician, dropping hints about the exciting family business news to come. My father huddled with potential investors, making promises he thought I'd have to keep. Lisa squeezed my arm. You okay? Never better. I watched the servers clearing dinner plates. Almost time. Francisco's father approached, beaming. June. Norman's been telling me about the merger plans. Brilliant strategy. Has he? I smiled pleasantly. How interesting. The DJ's voice cut through the chatter. And now we'll hear from our maid of honor, June. My mother practically pushed people aside to get a better view, her camera ready. The local reporter flipped to a fresh page in his notebook. I stepped up to the microphone, my hands steady. The speech I'd prepared felt like a weapon, loaded and ready. When Chelsea asked me to be her maid of honor, I was touched. Family hasn't always been. I paused, meeting my mother's eyes. Straightforward for me. The room quieted. My father's smile flickered. You see, I learned early that family isn't just about blood. It's about who believes in you when you have nothing, who supports you when you're told you're not enough. My mother's camera lowered slightly. Chelsea was there when I started my company, when everyone said a woman couldn't succeed in tech, when my own parents I let the words hang, watching them squirm. Well, let's just say they had different expectations. The reporter's pen scratched frantically. But today isn't about the past. It's about the future, about legacy. I pulled out an envelope. My parents have been telling everyone about an exciting business announcement. They're right, I do have one. My father sat up straighter, triumphant. Several investors leaned forward. I'm announcing the creation of the Spencer Foundation for Girls in Technology, funded with an initial endowment of $1 million, twice what my parents recently asked me for. The room erupted in murmurs. My mother's camera clattered to the table. This foundation will support girls who've been told they're not enough, who've been denied opportunities because of their gender. who've had to build themselves from nothing. My father half rose, but my mother grabbed his arm. Every year, we'll provide full scholarships to girls who dream bigger than their circumstances, who refuse to let anyone define their worth. I looked directly at my parents, who know that real family supports you without conditions. The reporter was practically vibrating with excitement. And to launch this initiative, I'm partnering with several women-led tech firms to provide mentorship programs. Because sometimes I smiled at Lisa, at Chelsea, at all the people who'd actually supported me. The family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. I raised my glass. To Chelsea and Francisco, thank you for showing me what real family love looks like. The applause was thunderous. My father stormed out, followed by several confused investors. My mother sat frozen, her carefully crafted narrative crumbling around her. Chelsea hugged me, whispering, "That was perfect." The reporter rushed over. "June, can you comment on your parents' recent statements about a family business merger?" "I'm afraid they spoke without consulting me," I said clearly. "Any statements they've made about my involvement in their business ventures are incorrect. And the loans they've secured based on your supposed investment? I know nothing about those," I replied. "But I'm sure the relevant authorities will be interested in investigating any fraudulent claims." My mother finally approached, her face tight. "June, how could I what, mother? Help others instead of enabling you. Create something meaningful instead of bailing out your failed business. We're your parents." "No," I cut her off. "You're people who gave birth to me. Parents support their children. Parents love unconditionally. You've done neither." The reporter caught every word. Lisa appeared with my coat. "Ready to go?" I nodded, then turned back to my mother. "The foundation's first scholarship will be awarded next month. You're welcome to attend the ceremony as guests, not parents. Maybe you'll learn something about what real family support looks like." As we left, I heard the buzz of conversations, saw the reporter already typing on his phone, noticed my mother's frozen smile as she tried to salvage what was left of her social standing. "You did it." Lisa grinned. "No," I corrected her, feeling lighter than I had in years. "We did it, all of us who showed me what real family means." Behind us, the reception continued, but the story everyone would remember wasn't about Chelsea's wedding. It was about a daughter who turned her parents' manipulation into something powerful, something good. And that was the best revenge of all. The morning after the wedding, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The local paper's headline read, "Tech CEO announces $1 million foundation reveals family rift." My mother had called Times. "You've gone viral," Rhett announced, barging into my hotel room with coffee and his tablet. "National media's picking up the story. Daughter turns parents' manipulation into force for good." Lisa looked up from her phone. "Your mom's doing damage control on social media. Says it's all a misunderstanding. Is that why she's been calling non-stop?" I took a sip of coffee. "Or because the bank's probably already calling about those loans." My phone rang again. Francisco this time. "June, you need to come to the hotel restaurant now. What's wrong?" "Your father's here with his investors. It's ugly." I grabbed my jacket. Time to face the music. Lisa and Rhett followed me down. The scene in the restaurant was exactly what I'd expected. My father, red-faced, surrounded by angry men in suits. "There she is," he shouted as I entered. "Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." "What exactly should I tell them, father? That you lied about my involvement? That you secured loans using my name without permission?" One of the investors stepped forward. "Is it true you knew nothing about the merger plans?" "Not only did I not know, but I have documentation proving they acted without my consent." I pulled out my phone, showing emails from my lawyer. "I've already reported the unauthorized use of my name to the relevant authorities. You ungrateful little..." My father lunged forward, but Francisco blocked his path. "Think carefully about your next move," Francisco warned. "There are witnesses." My mother burst in, looking frantic. "June, please, we can fix this. Just tell everyone you've changed your mind." "Change my mind?" I laughed. "About what? The foundation that's already legally established? The press release that's gone viral? Or the fraud investigation that's probably starting right now?" "Fraud?" One of the investors paled. "Norman, you said this was a done deal." "It was supposed to be," my father sputtered. "She's our daughter. She's supposed to what?" I cut in. "Sacrifice my reputation to save yours. Clean up your mess. Be the son you always wanted." The restaurant had gone silent, everyone watching the drama unfold. "We gave you everything," my mother cried. "You gave me nothing but doubt and disappointment. Everything I have, I built myself. And now you want to take credit for it?" Another investor stood up. "I'm calling my lawyer. This is serious misrepresentation." "Wait," my father pleaded. "We can work something out." "Like you work something out with me?" I turned to the investors. "I suggest you all contact your legal representatives. I'm happy to provide documentation showing I never agreed to any of these deals." My mother grabbed my arm. "You're destroying your father's reputation. No, Mother, he did that himself. I'm just refusing to save it. Rhett stepped forward, tablet in hand. Should I send that second press release now? The one about the unauthorized loans? My father's face went from red to white. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I moved closer, lowering my voice. You taught me that image is everything, remember? Now you get to watch yours crumble, just like you tried to crumble mine. Miss Spencer, a new voice, a reporter who'd apparently been having breakfast. Would you care to comment on the situation? Actually, yes. I smiled, knowing this would be the final nail in their coffin. I'd like to announce that the Spencer Foundation's first initiative will focus specifically on helping young women whose families have tried to limit their potential. We'll be partnering with domestic abuse organizations to identify candidates. My mother's grip on my arm went slack. Domestic abuse? The reporter's eyebrows shot up. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that emotional and financial abuse are just as damaging as physical abuse, and that it's time we help people break free from toxic family dynamics. The investors were already leaving, phones pressed to their ears. My father looked shell-shocked, his carefully built world collapsing around him. You've ruined us, he whispered. No, I corrected him. You ruined yourselves. I just refuse to be your safety net. Lisa appeared at my side. Your car's ready. We should head to the airport. I turned to leave, then paused. The Foundation's first ceremony is in a month. I meant what I said. You're welcome to attend as guests. Maybe watching other parents support their daughters will teach you something. As we walked out, I heard my mother start to cry, heard my father trying to call after his fleeing investors. But for the first time in my life, their drama wasn't my problem. You okay? Lisa asked as we reached the car. Better than okay, I smiled, watching the hotel shrink in the rearview mirror. I'm free. 1 month later, I stood on stage at the Spencer Foundation's inaugural ceremony. The auditorium was packed with young women, their families, and media representatives. My parents' empty seats in the front row spoke volumes. Our first scholarship recipient, I announced, is Maria, a 17-year-old whose father told her that girls don't belong in engineering. Maria stepped forward, beaming. Her mother wiped tears from her eyes, clapping loudly. With this scholarship, Maria will attend MIT next fall. But more importantly, she'll know that her dreams are valid, her ambitions are worthy, and her gender is not a limitation. The applause was deafening. From the side of the stage, Lisa gave me a thumbs up. A commotion at the back of the auditorium caught my attention. My mother slipped in, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She took a seat in the last row, clutching her purse like a shield. I continued with the ceremony, introducing each recipient. Rebecca, who built a robotics program at her underfunded school. Sarah, who developed an app to help domestic violence survivors. Ashley, who the auditorium doors opened again. My father walked in, hesitating before sitting next to my mother. Their presence didn't feel like victory or defeat, just a footnote in a bigger story. After the ceremony, during the reception, Lisa nudged me. Your mom's heading this way? She approached tentatively, looking lost among the celebrating families. June. Yes? Your father's business is gone, she said quietly. The house too. The investigators found everything. I know. I watched Maria hugging her proud mother. The local paper kept me informed. We're moving in with your aunt. She twisted her wedding ring. Your father's looking for work, but at his age, are you here for sympathy or money? I asked directly. Because I'm fresh out of both. I'm here because she glanced around at the happy families, because I watched that girl's mother hugging her, celebrating her dreams instead of crushing them, and I realized, I never did that for you. No, you didn't. Is it too late? Her voice cracked. To learn how. Before I could answer, Maria bounded over. Miss Spencer, my mom wants to thank you personally. Maria's mother followed, radiating pride. What you're doing here? It's changing lives, showing these girls they can be anything. My mother watched this exchange, her expression unreadable. That's the goal, I smiled at Maria. To make sure no girl feels limited by other people's expectations. June, my mother spoke softly. Could I volunteer with the foundation? Learn how to support girls like I should have supported you. I studied her face, looking for manipulation, but finding only regret. The foundation always needs volunteers, but you'd be starting at the bottom. No special treatment, I understand. And father? She shook her head. He's not ready. Maybe never will be, but I need to do this for myself, for all the times I failed you. Rhett appeared with news updates on his tablet. The story's still growing. More companies want to partner with the foundation. We're getting scholarship applications from all over the country. My mother turned to leave, but I caught her arm. Thursday mornings, that's when we train new volunteers. Don't be late. Her eyes welled up. Thank you. As she walked away, Lisa whispered, Are you sure about this? No, I admitted. But this foundation is about breaking cycles. Maybe it's time to break this one too. The reception continued around us. Girls taking selfies with their acceptance letters, parents hugging their daughters, dreams taking flight. My father had left already, unable to watch this celebration of everything he'd fought against. Maria's mother approached again. Your parents, are they proud of all this? My father isn't, I said honestly. My mother is learning to be, but the real pride? I gestured to the room full of celebrating families. It's watching parents like you support your daughters without condition. That's what this foundation is about. Well, we're proud of you, she said firmly, all of us. Later as we packed up, Rhett showed me more news updates, my father's business collapse, the investigation findings, the community's reaction. Karma's real, Lisa commented. Maybe. I watched my mother helping clean up, trying to find her place in this new world. But so is growth. If she's genuine about learning, then this foundation will have changed one more life, Rhett finished. I looked around the auditorium, now empty except for echoes of joy and possibility. My revenge had transformed into something bigger than family drama. It had become a force for change. Ready to go? Lisa asked. Almost. I took one last look at the stage, just remembering something my father used to say about legacy. Turns out he was right, just not in the way he meant. We left together, leaving behind the weight of old expectations and carrying forward the promise of new beginnings. The Spencer Foundation's office buzzed with activity as I reviewed applications with our team. My mother sat at a volunteer desk, carefully organizing candidate files. 3 months of showing up every Thursday had earned her a regular position, though some staff still watched her warily. June. She approached my desk hesitantly. You should see this application. I took the file reading the girl's story. 16, brilliant at coding, parents refusing to support her dreams, history repeating itself. Her situation. My mother's voice wavered. It's like looking in a mirror, isn't it? The difference is she'll get support. I pressed the approval stamp on the application. That's why we're here. Lisa burst into the office waving her phone. Your father's on the local news. She pulled up the video. There he was being interviewed outside his new job, a junior position at a small firm. I lost everything, he said to the camera, because I couldn't accept that times have changed. My daughter, he paused, looking directly at the lens. She proved me wrong about everything. Turn it off, I said quietly. He's been asking about you, my mother ventured, watching all the foundation's progress. Good for him. I turned back to the applications. Rhett walked in with Chelsea and Francisco. Surprise inspection. We brought lunch. And news, Chelsea added. We're having a baby. A girl. The office erupted in cheers. My mother hung back, uncertain of her place in this celebration. Have you told your parents? I asked Chelsea. Yes. And she hesitated. Uncle Norman asked if you'd be the godmother. He said, and I quote, she'd teach her to be strong. The room went quiet. My mother dropped a stack of files. Did he now? I kept my voice neutral. Interesting timing. He's changed, June, my mother said softly. We both have. Watching you build this, help these girls. It's shown us everything we did wrong. Mom, I finally looked at her directly. You've proven you want to change. You show up. You do the work. You face your mistakes. But him? One TV interview and a message through Chelsea doesn't erase everything. I know, but the office door opened again. My father stood there looking uncomfortable in his off-the-rack suit. What are you doing here? I stood up. I came to apply. He held up a volunteer form. To learn, like your mother has. Lisa moved protectively closer to me. Rhett crossed his arms. Why now? I demanded. Because I was wrong. He stepped forward, about everything. About you, about women in business, about what makes a legacy worthwhile. He gestured around the office. This is worth more than any business I ever built. It's not that simple. I know. He placed the volunteer form on a desk. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to learn, to understand, to do better. Like Mom has, she's braver than me. Always was. Took me losing everything to see that. He looked around at the application files. Each of these is a girl I would have dismissed, like I dismissed you. Chelsea stepped forward. June, remember what you said at the foundation launch about breaking cycles? I picked up his volunteer form. Bottom rung. No special treatment. One mistake, one attempt to take credit or control, and you're out. Understood. And the godmother thing? I meant it, he said quietly. You're everything I should have been proud of from the start. I handed the form to my mother, put him in next Thursday's training group, regular volunteer track. He nodded, turning to leave. Dad? He stopped. Why did you really come? Because watching you succeed despite me made me realize I didn't fail as a father because I had a daughter. I failed as a father because I couldn't see how lucky I was to have you. The office remained silent as he left. My mother wiped her eyes. Well, Rhett broke the tension. Shall we eat this lunch before it gets cold? As everyone gathered around, I watched my mother explaining procedures to new volunteers. Through the window, I saw my father get into his modest used car, such a change from his former luxury sedan. "You okay?" Lisa asked. "You know what?" I smiled, looking at the approved application in my hands, the girl whose parents didn't believe in her. "I really am, because this was never about revenge. It was about change, and sometimes change has to start with us." Chelsea hugged me. "So about that godmother thing, let's see how Thursday's training goes first," I laughed. One step at a time. The foundation office hummed with activity, applications being processed, dreams being supported, cycles being broken. My parents were learning slowly what they should have known all along, that true legacy isn't about control or expectations. It's about giving others the chance to soar.